The moment my father slammed his fist on the dinner table so hard, the plates jumped and screamed, "Melissa, you're the reason we're drowning in these goddamn bills and about to lose the house." With my mother, my sister, and my brother all staring at me like I was the enemy, something inside me went perfectly, dangerously calm. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just looked him in the eye, smiled the smallest smile, and said, "Okay, Dad, I hear you. I'll take care of it." He thought that was surrender. He had no idea it was the beginning of me leaving him completely, utterly empty. Let me take you back so you can feel every knife the way I did. My name is Melissa, and for the last 8 years, I was the only adult in a house full of grown children. We lived in the same 2-story brick house on Maple Street in Millbrook, Ohio, the one with the creaky porch swing Dad built when I was 10 and still believed he was my hero. I was 32, pulling 6 figures as a senior financial analyst for a healthcare company in Columbus. I worked remote 3 days a week so I could drive the 40 minutes home every single evening, cook dinner, pay the mortgage, the utilities, the car notes, my sister's credit cards, my brother's endless just until I get on my feet loans, and Mom's endless prescriptions. Dad, Tom, hadn't held a steady job since the plant closed in 2018. He called himself between opportunities. Mom called him tired. I called it what it was, lazy and entitled. But I kept paying because that's what good daughters do, right? That's what the family told me every Sunday after church when they'd hug me too tight and whisper, "We don't know what we'd do without you, honey." But things weren't adding up. The credit card statements had mystery charges, $400 at the casino 2 towns over, $1,200 at an online poker site, new fishing gear he swore he found on sale. Every time I asked, Dad would sigh like I was the problem. "Melissa, you're always so negative. Your mother needs her pills. Your sister needs to look professional for her influencer thing. Jake needs a truck that actually runs. Stop counting every penny like some kind of accountant." I was an accountant. That was my actual job. I wish I could say that was the worst part, but things got worse. Last October, the mortgage company sent the first late notice. I'd wired the full payment from my checking account like I always did, but somehow it never cleared. Dad claimed the bank messed up. I transferred it again. Same thing. Then the second notice came, and the third. Interest piled up. Late fees. I stayed up until 3 a.m. going through every statement and found it. Dad had opened 3 new credit cards in my name while I was at a work conference. He'd maxed them out on family emergencies and forged my signature on the paperwork. Over $47,000. My perfect credit score, 760, dropped to 510 in 30 days. I sat on the edge of my bed with the papers shaking in my hands and felt the rage rise like bile. But I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I just folded the statements neatly, put them in a locked drawer, and started planning. Because here's what nobody in that house understood. I wasn't just the family ATM. I was the only one who knew how money actually worked. The real betrayal came on Thanksgiving. The whole family was around the table, turkey I'd paid for, stuffing I made at 6 a.m., wine Dad had picked up with my emergency credit card. He waited until I was carving the bird to drop the bomb. "We had a family meeting while you were at that fancy work retreat," he announced, voice loud like he was making a sermon. "And we all agreed, you've been holding us back, Melissa. Your tight-fisted attitude is why the bank is threatening foreclosure. We're selling the house. We're starting over. And you need to move out by the end of the month." Mom nodded, eyes on her plate. "It's for the best, sweetie." My sister Emily, 28, still living rent-free while filming TikToks about healing from toxic family, actually smirked. "You've always acted like you're better than us because you have that big girl job." Jake, my 25-year-old brother who still called me for gas money, laughed. "Come on, Mel, time to grow up." I felt the humiliation burn across my cheeks like a slap. 20 people at the table, uncles, cousins, neighbors, watching my own father publicly disown me. I could hear the whispers already. Poor Tom, his daughter abandoned them. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd be sick right there on the good china. But I swallowed it. I set the carving knife down gently, wiped my hands on my apron, and said in the calmest voice I'd ever heard come out of my mouth, "Okay, Dad, I hear you. I'll take care of it." He thought that was surrender. He had no idea it was the beginning of me leaving him completely, utterly empty. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in my childhood bedroom, the one with the faded horse posters I never got to take down, and opened the secret folder on my laptop I'd been building for months. Every single payment I'd ever made. Every forged signature I documented with screenshots and notary stamps. Bank records showing Dad's gambling withdrawals, a quiet consultation with a financial fraud attorney in Columbus. Even though Dad was only 58, the law still applied when someone was bleeding the family dry. I had copies of everything. I had already moved every direct deposit from my paycheck into a new account he didn't know existed. I had quietly paid off the 2 cars in my name and transferred the titles to me alone. I had even started a limited liability company 2 months earlier under a name no one would connect to me. The next morning, I loaded my clothes into my car while they all watched from the porch like it was some kind of victory parade. Dad actually smiled and said, "See, she finally listened." Emily filmed it for her boundary-setting reel. I didn't say goodbye. I just drove away listening to the silence in my head for the first time in 8 years. But I wasn't gone. Not really. I rented a tiny furnished apartment 20 minutes away, told no one the address, and started the silent war. First move, I stopped all automatic payments I'd been making to the family accounts. The mortgage, the utilities, the credit cards, everything went dark. I didn't block their numbers, I just let the calls go to voicemail and saved every single message. Dad's voice got angrier by the day. Mom crying, "We're your family." Emily, "This is so selfish." Jake, "I'm gonna lose my truck, man." I smiled every time I listened. I wish I could say the revenge was instant, but things got worse. For them. By Christmas, the bank had filed foreclosure papers. Dad called me screaming that it was my fault for abandoning them. I calmly reminded him the house was in his name the whole time, and I had the canceled checks proving I'd paid every mortgage payment for 6 straight years. He hung up on me. Then the collection calls started. For the cards he'd opened in my name. I had already filed the fraud reports with the credit bureaus, and the attorney had sent certified letters freezing everything. Dad's name was now attached to the debts he'd created. His own credit score cratered. Plot twist number 1 came on New Year's Eve. My brother Jake showed up at my apartment door at midnight, drunk and shaking. "Mel, I can't do this anymore. Dad's been using your social security number for years. He even filed taxes claiming you as a dependent last year so he could get a bigger refund." He handed me a USB drive. I hugged him for the first time in years and let him sleep on my couch. He became my secret weapon, quietly feeding me every new lie Dad told the rest of the family. Plot twist number 2 came in February. Mom called me crying, real tears this time. "Your father, he's been seeing a woman at the casino. That's where the money went. I knew, but I was scared." She begged me to come home and fix it. I told her I loved her, but the fixing was no longer my job. Then I sent her flowers the next day with a note that simply said, "Choose you." She never called again. Emily tried her own little twist in March. She posted a tearful TikTok calling me out by name, claiming I had stolen family money and abandoned our sick father. The comments were brutal. I let it run for 48 hours, then dropped the full packet of evidence. Forged signatures, gambling records, the fraud reports, straight to her manager at the boutique she was trying to get sponsored by. Her brand deals dried up overnight. She deleted the video and blocked me. I kept working, kept saving, kept watching the foreclosure date creep closer. I bid on the house through my LLC at the county auction in April. No one knew it was me. The day of the eviction was pure cinema. May 12th. Bright blue sky like the universe itself wanted a front row seat. The sheriff's deputy was taping the notice to the front door when I pulled up in my new black SUV, the one I'd bought with cash from the savings I'd hidden for 2 years. Dad was on the porch in his bathrobe, hair wild, yelling at the deputy. Mom was crying on the steps. Emily and Jake stood off to the side, looking shock-shelled. I stepped out of the car slowly, sunglasses on, hair perfect. The deputy looked at his clipboard and said, "New owner's here to take possession." Dad's head snapped toward me. His face went from rage to confusion to something I'll never forget. Pure animal terror. "Melissa?" I took off the sunglasses so he could see my eyes. "Hi, Dad. Remember when you said I was the reason we were losing the house? Well, I bought it. Cash. At auction. The bank was happy to sell it to someone who actually pays their bills." Mom gasped. Emily dropped her phone. Jake just smiled the tiniest smile because he already knew. I walked up the porch steps, the same ones I used to run down every morning as a little girl, and handed Dad an envelope. Inside was a single key to the storage unit where I had quietly moved every single thing that actually belonged to me months earlier. "Your 30 days start now. The new locks will be installed this afternoon. Anything left inside after that becomes the property of the new owner." That's me. He tried to lunge at me. The deputy stepped between us. Dad's voice cracked. "You can't do this. This is my house. I raised you here." I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me. "You raised me to be your wallet. I finally learned the lesson. Enjoy the empty rooms." What happened next shocked everyone, including me. The town gossip mill went nuclear. Old friends who'd heard Dad's version of the story suddenly saw the foreclosure notices, the fraud reports that became public record, the casino owner who quietly confirmed Dad owed him another $18,000. Dad's poker buddies stopped returning calls. The church prayer circle he used to lead started praying for someone else. Mom filed for separation 2 weeks later and moved in with her sister in Indiana. Emily had to get a real job at the Walmart 20 miles away. Jake actually enrolled in community college and started paying his own bills for the first time. Dad ended up in a one-bedroom apartment above the laundromat, driving an '03 Civic with 240,000 miles. Last I heard, he was working part-time at the same plant he used to mock for hiring losers. He called me once, voice small and broken, and said, "I'm sorry, Mel. I didn't know what I was doing." I let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then I said, "You knew exactly what you were doing, Dad. You just never thought I'd do it better." I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I just lived. I moved back into the house last month, painted the walls soft gray, planted roses along the walkway Dad used to ignore. I sit on that same porch swing every evening with a glass of wine and watch the sunset paint the sky the color of forgiveness I finally gave myself. Here's what I want you to hear if you're watching this and your family is bleeding you dry, blaming you for the mess they made, calling you selfish for saying no. You are not the villain for protecting your peace. Blood doesn't give anyone permission to empty your soul. Karma doesn't always come with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it comes wearing your face, driving your car, and holding the keys to the house they swore you never deserved. I left my father empty, and for the first time in my life, I finally feel full. If this story hit you in the chest, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear they're allowed to walk away, and subscribe because there are so many more stories where this came from. You're not alone. And the best revenge? Becoming the woman they could never break. I'm Melissa. This is Revenge with Melissa, and I'll see you in the next one.